Hello from the US. I hope you guys are doing well. I wanted to walk you through a prototype for the discrete choice experiment in terms of the logistics of actually administering this out in the field. And hopefully this will clarify a few things for everybody and give us something to move forward with in terms of how the enumerators are actually going to use this in the field. So let me bring up the script here and then I'll show you what I made. I tried to set up the video with a really nice view of the mountains, but it's unfortunately a little bright outside right now, so I wasn't able to do that. Maybe next time. So the first piece of paper that the enumerator should have with them is basically a list of the attributes here on the left in this column, and then all of the different possible levels of those attributes out here. So for example, you can see up here with smell, I apologize for being backwards, smell, you have the three different levels of very disgusting, slightly disgusting, and not disgusting with the associated pictures. And then on down the line, you can see these guys there. And of course, we can change all of these as needed. But this would be the first thing that the enumerators would walk through with the respondents. So let me see if I can kind of keep this at the right spot. So kind of just walking through the script that I developed. The first attribute here is smell produced. And so different services produce different amounts of smell that either your household or your neighbors can smell. The different levels of this attribute are very disgusting, slightly disgusting, and not disgusting. So basically the enumerator should walk through with the household each of these levels, as I've shown in the script here, so that they understand what the different levels are that are possible in the questions that they're going to look at. And also answer any questions that the household may have. So for example, when we get down here to cost, you can see that it ranges from 50,000 riel all the way up to 250,000 riel. And it's likely that the household is going to have some questions about, oh, that's too expensive. Oh, that's not, you know, that's really not much money, etc. Like, there's lots of things that the household might say. So this is the time for the enumerator to explain, well, you know, this is where your value comes in. This is what you need to think about when you're looking at these questions. Think about what's important to you. That's the whole point of these questions. So again, it's kind of an opportunity to start talking about these things. Okay. Let's see, anything else I want to say there before I move on? All right, I think that's pretty good. So again, the enumerator will walk through each of these levels as I've shown in the script. All right, so having done that, then they would start talking about the practice questions, and we're kind of moving to that almost practice question phase of the survey. But question 19.11 says, but before we practice, we need to ask you a question. So here's the question. What would you do if your latrine pit filled up and you could not hire someone to empty it or install a new pit for you? So this is the status quo option. This is the there's no service available, what would you do question. So of the four different answers, you can see here, this is the second prototype that I developed here. You can see that it's two groupings of paper on a piece of cardboard. Okay, and so just focusing on the smaller pieces of paper here. If I zoom in here a little bit, you can see that's the have a family member empty the pit. The next one is use a neighbor's latrine. The third one is flood out. And the fourth one is revert to open defecation. Okay, so these are those four different status quo options that the household could answer for that question. And so basically, after having answered that question, the enumerator would simply select, let's say that the household says that they're going to revert to open defecation. Okay, so then the enumerator would flip this to the correct sheet, hold over the top there, and then they would leave it like that for the rest of the time in the survey. So then the next part of the survey is doing the practice questions. So I'm just going to use the first two sheets here. I think that's actually probably fine when we're actually going through the surveys and actually doing the practice questions. But again, in the practice questions, we're basically going to be walking the household through, or walking the respondent through how to answer a question like this. So you can see, for example, this is the first question here written at the top of the larger sheet of paper here. It says, of the following practices, which would you choose to perform when your pit fills up next? Okay, and you can see the attributes listed here, just like in the first sheet of paper where we kind of reviewed the different attributes and the levels. But then we have the three different practices, the two services, practice A and B, or option A and B, we should call them options. So option A, option B are services. You can see the associated levels with those. Okay. And then the status quo option, which will always stay the same. So as a practice question, the enumerator should walk through and say, okay, well, this is option A. You can see that it's very disgusting. It does not prevent contact with Maruk. So and just kind of, highlighting the imagery there, and on down the line for option A. And then walk through option B. You can see this is different than option A. It's slightly disgusting. It does prevent contact with Maruk, but it is twice as expensive at 100,000 real. I apologize for the video being off a little bit there. And not totally clear. So in any case, and then the third option, of course, would be the revert to open defecation option, which you indicated you would do if you didn't have access to services. So again, there's definitely a lot to streamline in the way that this is explained, and that's where the training is going to come in. And obviously, I'm not an expert in talking about this stuff quite yet. So in any case, that would be practice question number 1. And then practice question number 2, similarly, again, the numerator would walk through and say, okay, well, notice that this option here has a 20-year until next major expense, whereas this one only has a 3-year. So again, it's kind of getting them thinking about what the differences are and how they need to think about the questions, okay? All right, so that's kind of the practice stuff. That's all of the, again, sorry, leave the status quo as is for this household. And then, at this point, we've kind of trained the household in how to do this, how to answer a question, and we're ready to actually asking them real questions. So we get on our tablet, we take a look, and we say, okay, begin discrete choice experiment, and it is going to show us a number. It's going to say, ask respondent question 008. Okay? So you'll notice that right here, I've got 001, 002, and then, so basically the tablet tells me, okay, go to 008. So I would flip my sheets. Definitely a prototype to this. We can definitely improve upon this, but you kind of see where I'm going. So we've got 008 up, so that corresponds, this is a fixed question that will always be 008. So whenever the tablet tells an enumerator to ask question 008, this is what they're going to show them, so we can correlate that, which is great. And then, the enumerator would basically say, so of these options shown, which option would you choose when your pit fills up next? And that would be the question that they ask. And the respondent will sit there and think about things. Research has shown it takes them about a minute, 30 seconds to a minute to do each question. That's why we're assuming 5 minutes for this portion of the survey. And then the respondent will say, well, I'll pick practice or option B. And then the enumerator will simply type in B into their tablet and record it for that question. Then the tablet will come up and say, okay, ask the respondent question number 003. Okay, all right, let's keeping the status quo the same. We go to question 003. Again, that's the number in the bottom right there. And then again, of these options, which would you choose when your pit fills up next, and on down the line, okay? So the only recorded answer in the tablet is A, B, or C. Okay? And option C stays the same based on that question that we asked the household. All right, so we go through that 5 times. So we get 5 options selected for that household, and that's it. So easy, right? So I think this is going to take some iteration. This was just my first go with this. But with lamination, and I was thinking about having like a spiral bound top here, some kind of bound top so that it's a lot more durable. This was printed on, in the States, we have 11 by 17 paper, which I hope you guys use metric. I'm actually not sure what you use, but it's one of the larger sheets of paper. in order to make sure that the imagery is quite large and the text is quite large. I used 16-point font here, just so that it's very easy to understand. And you guys know all this from your site seller development. So in any case, we could easily print this on the same sheets of paper that the site sellers are on. Let's see, anything else? Yeah, so I hope that makes a lot more sense. And if you guys have any questions about anything, as always, I'm your man. Great, guys. Take care, and we'll see you soon.